Welcome, everyone, and happy Volunteer Week. My name is Mary Esna Ashari, and I'm the Senior Director of Patient and Volunteer Engagement for the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation. Today, I'm joined by 4 volunteers and 1 foundation staff person that are reaching new heights in volunteer impact at the foundation. They have expanded the scope of existing volunteer roles and events, taking on new challenges and building a foundation for future growth. They are going to share how they used innovation to start new events and committees that fund the foundation's mission programs and research. So first, we'll get started by learning who we're talking to tonight. So if my panelists could share your name, where you're located, your connection to IBD, and the event or committee that you created, I think that would be fantastic. So let's start with Mike.
Hi, I'm Mike. I live in Rockville, Maryland, a suburb of Washington, D.C. My connection to Crohn's disease is that my late wife had it, as did 2 of my sons. They were diagnosed at age 9. They're now in their 40s. Over the years, I participated in many Take Steps walks and team challenge events, including marathons, half marathons, and hikes. And a few years ago, I felt that the people who I was soliciting might be tired of hearing about those events, as repetitive as they are. And so I decided that instead of that, I would do a do-it-yourself walk, walking 100 miles over a month and keeping people up to date on the progress on a weekly basis. And this past year, my partner, Kathy, and I actually combined and walked 200 miles as our goal, ended up walking 250 because our fundraising exceeded what we thought we would get.
Hi, I'm Robbie. I'm from Chicago, Illinois. I have Crohn's. My mother also had Crohn's, and I started Gaming for Guts about 10 years ago. A game-a-thon every year, raising money over on Twitch and other streaming programs. That's it.
And Rory?
Hi, my name is Rory. I am an IBD patient from Binghamton, New York. I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease 7 years ago, and I've just always had a passion for helping others that are affected with the disease. So about 3 years ago, I founded the event called Community for Crohn's and Colitis Community Car Show. And we have been running the event for the last 2 years. We're going on year 3, and each year we've raised over $20,000 for the foundation.
And I'm Stacia. I live just outside Anchorage, Alaska. I am an IBD patient. I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease when I turned 30, so almost 15 years ago now. And I do an Alaska hike for IBD cures. It's a great place to do a hike in Alaska, so it's easy to organize. And last year we raised about $8,000.
Thank you, everyone. Melissa, can I have you introduce yourself?
Absolutely. I'm Melissa Scott, and I'm the National Manager of DIY fundraising and live stream and gaming with the foundation. And I'm located in North Carolina.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. So let's get into our questions. So the first question for our panelists, and we'll start with Mike. What did you think was going to be the hardest thing about making your idea come true? What was actually easy once you got started?
Well, the most difficult thing when I decided to walk 100 miles was how to do it. And originally, I was going to walk from Washington, D.C. to Baltimore in stages and back, but then found that it was too difficult because I would have to drive somewhere, walk back to my car, each time I was walking. So rather than do that, I set out to measure walks on a daily basis and add them to a grid until I reached 100 miles. And I wasn't sure how people would respond to that, whether people would want to donate per mile, per day, or what. But generally speaking, people got excited about what I was doing and were wondering how far along I was mileage wise every week when I reported the results. So it turned out to be easier than I thought it was. And it also turned out to get a more enthusiastic response than I thought it would.
Great. And Rob, what did you think was going to be super hard about starting Gaming for Guts, but was actually pretty easy once you got going?
The hardest part was actually no one knew what streaming was back then. So there were a lot of meetings that I had to explain that it's not gambling, and they got people eventually in the meetings that knew what we were doing. And we just started getting more and more members, and it became easier each year. But that was those first couple interviews were pretty funny. Trying to explain that it's not gambling, it's streaming, people watch and donate.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, Rob, because there's so much new technology and there's so many new ideas. I applaud you for being persistent and trying to help everyone understand what streaming actually meant. And it's funny to think that 10 years ago, when you first started Gaming for Guts, that streaming was new. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. Rory, you are up next. What did you think was going to be hard about your idea, but was actually pretty easy?
When I first had this idea to start a community-based event, the hardest thing for me was finding the community to help me. And this took a little bit of time, but as you go and you reach out to people, you sort of kind of learn that there are so many people in just a small community that are either affected by the disease or know someone who has. And just from that and those little connections, I have formed a group of 10 people who are now incredible and help me to create this event and make it better each year. So it's been easier to find that there are a lot of people in the area who also struggle with IBD.
That is really fantastic. So these are not necessarily people that you knew beforehand. These were people that you met as you made connections on social media, foundation events. Like, tell us how you met these individuals in the community.
So I first started by sharing my story on social media because I have always tried to advocate for IBD patients like myself. So when I was having a few bouts in the hospital, I was kind of sharing my story and some updates, and that ended up finding people. Friends were
Oh,
sharing, it ended up finding some people. So we kind of grew. It started very small, but it grew as the years went on, and now we are doing better than ever.
wow, fantastic. Okay. So it's kind of like you shared your story and the people came to you and you created this community that can help make a difference for IBD patients. That's fantastic. Stacia, what was hard or what did you think would be hard, but actually turned out to be pretty easy?
When I started building my DIY fundraiser, the thing that was definitely the hardest and turned out to definitely be the easiest was getting started with all the background, the website, the setup, kind of the building of the whole project. I didn't understand how to build the website and send it out to everybody. That seemed so overwhelming to me. And all I had to do was call and ask the foundation people, and they built it for me and then sent it to me and said, "What do you think of this?" And I said, "Looks amazing. Could we change one or two things?" And they said, "Of course." And then the next day they said, "What do you think of this?" And I said, "That's perfect." So I thought, kind of building that website and creating that thing that I could share was going to be the hardest, but it actually was so simple after just a quick phone call or an email, whatever that communication was. And then I have the website to share out in an email and share out on my social media. So yeah, they make it so easy. And they also have so many ideas because they're doing so many of these fundraisers throughout the whole country. So if you have an idea or you want to get involved, but you're not sure, I definitely would recommend reaching out because they will help you brainstorm an idea that fits well with your passion and your community.
Thank you so much for that. And yes, for all of our viewers, there are foundation staff across the country in a variety of different departments that can um, help you with your ideas, whether it be a DIY fundraiser or you have an idea for a new way to support patients through support groups, or you have a new way to recruit advocates for advocacy. Reach out to the staff. We are here to help. So thanks for saying that, Stacia. I appreciate it. All right. Our second question is about telling your story. And so a couple of months ago, we did a volunteer survey, and 80% of the hundreds of people that responded to this survey said that they have no problem and don't feel uncomfortable sharing their IBD story with anyone. But only 16% of them actually did. So it sounds like you guys have found the secret formula to sharing your story in a compelling way. So, Mike, our next question is, what was the most compelling way to tell your story, particularly to those that don't have a mission connection? And how did you engage others in your efforts by telling your story? Oh, Mike, you're still on mute.
What I found, and I think I have to give you some background on it, because I had been soliciting a list of potential donors for all of my Team Challenge events, and was always looking to expand on the list, which is not always easy because you've already got your list of friends, your list of family, your list of business contacts. Many of them already knew my family's story and the difficulties we faced with Crohn's disease. However, I found that when Kathy and I joined to do it together, we brought in a new group of people who were not familiar. And one of the most amazing things we find whenever we're raising money this way is how many people actually have a connection to IBD but don't talk about it. And when we were able to explain to people my son's predicaments and unfortunately their late mother's problems with Crohn's, people opened up more. I'm not just saying financially, they opened up more of what they were going through. And we found that even people who didn't have a mission connection or who didn't know that CCF even existed, all of a sudden were expressing appreciation for what we were doing in a way different from those of our friends and business associates who already knew. So that was one of the best experiences of doing it the way we did it this past time.
Growing up, my mom had severe Crohn's, always did fundraisers and PT, everything. She was always doing stuff. And I was sick, stuck at home, wanted to do something. I couldn't do the walks. I was always a gamer. So I figured I would reach out to the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation, and we started the game-a-thon. There was only 2 of us that first year, but it just kept growing and growing. And it's really helped. There's a lot of people that have Crohn's or IBD that can't do the walks and want to help out. And it's helped a lot of people. Even that first year, we got a letter from a mother saying, thanking us that her son thinks he can do anything now because 2 of us were streaming a little fundraiser, and now Gaming for Guts has become a big thing. So there's definitely different ways to help out. You just got to be creative and reach out.
And I think you made a really important point, Rob, that first you might start off with 1 or 2 people, that participate, but over time, you've really grown it into something where so many people are able to participate and be a part of this. And I think that's just really important to remember for anybody who has an idea that wants to start something. So thank you for that. Rory, I'll have you go next.
Okay, so in a small town that I grew up in, there's just not a whole lot of talk about different diseases and struggles going on in the area and the community. And when I was diagnosed, I felt very alone in my journey because I didn't really know anybody else that had Crohn's, and I didn't even know what Crohn's disease was when I was diagnosed. But as I went through my journey, I learned a lot about it, and I really just wanted people to know about it. And I wanted to bring an idea to life. So there used to be a small local event in our area years and years ago that I went to when I was first diagnosed, and it ended up falling through and they stopped doing it. And I just wanted so bad to do something like that again to bring awareness to Crohn's. So I started our community event slash car show event, which kind of drew in a bigger crowd than just IBD patients. I found it was helpful to bring in some sort of other elements that would help grow the event. So we started doing a car show and we did a community family event all in one. And it brought people from all over who slowly started learning what Crohn's was and how it impacted everyone. And I'll stand up each year and do a speech, and will award somebody kind of like a hero award for being an IBD patient. So we really tried to implement that in, but also kind of do something that was already in the community that people already enjoy.
So, when I try to share my story with people who maybe aren't as familiar with the mission, first of all, I'm shocked by how many people actually are familiar with IBD. It's incredible. Like, you'll go to a restaurant and I'll mention Crohn's and they'll say, "Oh, my sister has it," or "my auntie," or whoever. It's just there's so many more people that are impacted than you realize. So, just thinking, sort of framing it that way, first of all, I think is really helpful. But when I'm thinking about reaching out to people, I try to make it relatable. So I include personal stories about, when I was diagnosed, it took a while to get diagnosed. So I was really, really sick and nobody could figure out what was wrong. And it was really, really scary. And I thought I was going to die, and so just thinking about what that feels like, because I think other people can really relate to that. Or I talk about my son. I was diagnosed at 30. My son is 23 now. And so I'm terrified that he's going to have IBD. And so, a lot of people can really empathize with that. They're afraid of their children getting sick. And so they understand. Or kind of like Robbie was mentioning, there were lots of times that I was just too sick to do anything with my kiddo. And so I'll mention that, just being curled up in a ball and just being sick. So I'll share those stories, like people can understand kind of what that looks like. And so I try to share those stories. The other thing I do is I reach out, like Mike mentioned, to corporate sponsors. I think if we can have corporate sponsors, they're great because they're repeating. And so I handwrite notes inviting them to contribute to my fundraiser. And I give them to every GI in town, every surgery center in town. They're already familiar with the mission, and they also have access to lots of other IBD patients. And so I'll drop off a handwritten note and just say, "I'd really like to invite you to this. It's a great way to raise awareness and a great way to raise funds to find a cure." So those are the things I do.
Thank you for that. All right. Our third question is, what advice would you give someone who hasn't taken that next step in their volunteer experience? And Mike, we'll start with you.
I think that someone who has not engaged in this kind of fundraiser before will likely be intimidated at the thought of having to do it. And my advice would be, don't be. The fact is that once people learn about the situation that you've been going through or your family members have been going through, they will empathize with you. And it doesn't really matter what you are using as the vehicle to raise the money. I mean, I've done it with various different ways, but you can start it just by having a lemonade stand if you're a young person. And you'll be surprised at how many people will respond. You should not be intimidated the first time you do it, because you're going to find out that people will donate. They will talk to you about their experiences. They will relate their experiences to your experiences, and you'll be overwhelmed. Even if the first time you do it, you don't raise the money at the goal that you set for yourself, the next time you will. Don't give up. There are so many people out there who will support you and the foundation.
Robbie?
Starting out, you just got to do it. That first year, we only made around $250. I was really bummed out about that, but we started getting letters and feedback from people that suffer with IBD. The foundation was excited. And I just had to look at it a different way, that you're actually helping people. And as long as you keep doing that, I mean, the money will come in. It's more important to help the community. And there's so many people suffering that just don't have an outlet. Um, that that's You just have to keep doing it, and it'll slowly build over the years, and that's all you really got to do.
And Rory?
My advice to anybody who is thinking about starting a fundraiser for the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation is to go with your gut, and you can do it. There is a lot of nervousness and anxiety that comes with putting on a huge event like one that I do, and my community members help in as well. But it is so worth it in the end. And I mean, our first year we raised around like 10,000, and it keeps doubling every year because people are learning about it, people are loving it, and each story is unique. Every IBD patient is different, and everybody wants to hear what you have to say. I think that a lot of people feel like no one cares about Crohn's, like it's not a big deal, but it is, and it deserves to be heard. And if you can find your outlet to do that, it is extremely important that you do so.
Yeah, I would say if you're planning to start a DIY fundraiser, just do it, just try. I think people are worried about maybe failing, and there is no way to fail. So as long as you've tried it, it's a win. I did my hike last year, and 3 people were there, me, my partner, and my best friend, but we still raised like $8,000. For me, the focus was on the fundraising, but your focus might be on community engagement, and then you would want to have more people. Maybe the money part wouldn't be as important. So you can really talk with the foundation person about what you want your focus to be. Once you do it the first time, it's so much easier to do it the next time, right? And it can be as simple or as complex as you want it to be. For mine, I literally picked a date and a place, and I said, show up at 10 at this location if you want to come hike with us. So that was it. That's all the work that went into it. I had a little table. They sent me some materials. So I set up a table for like the first 30 minutes, and I talked to people who were walking by, and it was fun and easy. So I would say just do it. If you raise $10, maybe you're the only person doing your fundraiser that year and you put in $10. I always say that there's one test tube at the end of the day that's going to hold the cure for IBD, and you could have done that, right? That could be your $10. So it doesn't matter how much you raise the first time or any time. It's that we're moving forward and making progress. So if you're thinking about it, just try it, see how it goes. You're not committed to doing it 100 times. You could just see it, try it. And the foundation really does make it easy. So I'd really encourage you to just try it.
Thank you for that. That is a lot of really solid advice. And I also want to piggyback off of something Stacia just said about creating community and creating community engagement. And I think using your ideas and using your energy and your efforts to do things outside of fundraising as well. Maybe fundraising is not your strong suit. Maybe you really want to support people, but you don't know how. I think reaching out to the foundation and learning how you can create community, because like Stacia just said, that $10 you may have raised, funded that test tube that's doing research that might find better treatments or a cure for the foundation. But if you were to step up and find a creative way to provide support to people, maybe in a social media group or a book club or something like that. There was a person who felt alone and isolated and like no one heard them or understood them. And because you created that group and that community, someone has felt supported. So I think it's really taking everyone's advice here, and let's go there together and do this. Just jump in. We're here to help. So for our viewers, I hope that this conversation sparks an idea or lights a fire for you to turn that idea into something tangible. The Crohn's and Colitis Foundation is accelerating the pace of research to improve the quality of life of every IBD patient. So bring your ideas, bring your energy, and let's make a difference. And how do you do that, you might ask? Well, I am going to turn it over to Melissa Scott for a minute to tell you a little bit about do-it-yourself fundraising, and then I'll tell you how you can be involved in other volunteer avenues as well. So Melissa, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mary. You've just heard from some powerful stories from our DIY and live stream and gaming fundraisers. They each turned their passion into purpose and raised funds to benefit the IBD community. Now it's your turn. Let's go there. Visit crohnscolitisfoundation.org/DIY. You'll learn more about our DIY and live stream fundraising community, and we'll make a difference together.
And if you're interested in other volunteer opportunities, you can reach out to me, or you can go to our website, crohnscolitisfoundation.org/volunteer, and you can submit a volunteer interest form, and I will reach out to you and we will find a way for you to be involved. So thank you all so much for being our panelists today. I appreciate everyone's energy and passion towards putting IBD in the rearview mirror. Thank you so much. And to all of our viewers, have a great day.